out any benzos?
The answer is no. I just want to clarify that now. Absolutely not.
Create and distribute harm reduction information.
There's some really compelling stories and it really gives an overview of what young people have faced while using benzo.
From high dose, high frequency benzo use could be fatal. A man from Belfast said, "I was referred to my local addiction clinic where I waited months to be seen." Higher potency, and this can cause severe issues if they don't know what they're taking and perhaps take more than intended.
Red education is necessary. All evidence supports this, yet we still see governments and policymakers choosing to ignore. But we were facing a lot of barriers without being independent, being students.
As well as to involve them in our community.
All via Instagram and some via Twitter and even TikTok as well. Instagram, the number of testimonies received, obviously 81, just links of harm reduction and mental health awareness content. Mainly use sort of text-based and visual-based posts.
Allowing our audience to have their stories heard, which we found was another really empowering function for our community.
We still strongly believe that those stories are important to be heard and we need to share them. We need some statistics and well, when the FOI campaign led by Mae Allen that Mae just told you about happened, of course this kind of solved our problem, but I think that this goes a lot to a lot of big questions that are coming up in our current campaign.
So far, we have received over 100 responses. We encourage others to conduct further analysis on the research that we've collated, so the information can go as far as possible to further address and understand the rise in benzo use.
Other than that, thank you guys very much for listening. Yes?
But thank you for holding this event.
To give young people the tools to make educated decisions. Drug use doesn't necessarily have to be a death sentence. Larger social and public health issue.
They're a novel substance, or considered that by the government. It means that there aren't widespread testing kits, but yet we saw the rates of benzo-related deaths.
Curriculum, where can we develop something that is a statutory form of education, perhaps with secondary upwards, around harm reduction rather than the kind of punitive approaches that have existed previously. I think there's a shift and I think it's getting better.
MDMA seems to be stronger, and like the clinical trials in the US.
Drug policy space just lumps all the drugs into the discussion, and I think that's to the detriment of the debate. It's just like, we should legalise drugs.
Policymakers or people in government would see this great research and think, well, what we need to do is up-classify benzo being used outside of a prescription, crack down on supply, and we know that won't work. We need to see a frame change in public health. The right approach is going to be somewhere more centre, so how do we sort of have that sensible conversation?
I've always found that's where, again, some of the biggest tensions sit, because I find often when I try and say something on Twitter, it rarely goes well anyway, but it's difficult getting in the middle ground. Drug policy is really difficult, lobbying is difficult, engaging the media is really difficult, and seeing initiatives like this just done off your own back is really, really, really exciting.
I've never been in a team like this, and that's everybody in it, but I think that's also massively down to you. I'm getting emotional. But yeah, you are like one of the strongest, most caring team leads I've ever worked with.
We've invested 4,000 voluntary hours, and that doesn't include the amount of hours that went into this event. Find people whose doors were very much open, as we see here. And so I'd very much urge anyone out there, whether you're a student or not, to know that your voice does matter. Even with the closed doors, there will be people who very much appreciate what you're doing and want to see more of it, and this is a key example of that. So with that, thank you guys, and see the report in a week and all our stuff on the website.